Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Lots to share with you today, so let's dive right in. I've written recently in my financial column about financial advisors, and I'm going to get on my little soapbox, and I think there's some things that you'll find very interesting that will come from my soapbox. So I've written a couple of things. One was some myths about financial services in general, and then just things to be aware of. So what I'd like to do first for you today is I'd like to talk about the myth of relying on financial advisors and whether that is something you can or can't or should or shouldn't do. So I've got three specific things I want to talk about. Number one, and I'll give you the myth and then I'll answer it. So the first one is advice from a celebrity financial expert must be true and can be relied on when making decisions about your personal financial situation. I did that with my best poker face there to share that with you. Of course, that's false. You cannot rely on a celebrity to give you advice. Your individual situation will determine what is appropriate for you. You know that, okay? Nobody can tell you from California, from a TV studio, what you should do. This is two things. One, it's very, very, very general commentary that they make. And two, it is entertainment. If it's on the radio, if it's in the newspaper, if it's television, and it's somebody giving you their quote-unquote celebrity expert opinion, then you have to look at that within a context. So as smooth as they are, the TV actors and celebrities, they're not giving you individual advice. And I'll pick on a couple, if you don't mind. I don't mind. I recently caught Dave Ramsey, who is well regarded. I have a lot of respect for what Dave Ramsey does. But he was talking on a morning show, and I heard him make some comments about paying off debt. And I will tell you, the way he described it, I don't agree. And I'm out here in the field doing it every day, and I can tell you that what he mentioned and it was a passing comment, but I'm like, nope, don't agree, Dave. This David doesn't agree with that Dave. So there are going to be things that you hear and see that you may or may not be able to rely on. And even though somebody may very smoothly tell you you need gold in your portfolio, maybe you don't. And maybe somebody's very good at describing reverse mortgages and making it seem so easy and simple and like we're sitting down and having a cup of coffee and just relax and talk. I mean, just the peace that comes across that TV set, it's very powerful, but it may or may not be appropriate for you. And so it just depends on your situation. So, you know, I've heard some of these folks say some pretty dumb stuff. And so you have to keep all of that in mind, that you have to get help from somebody that knows your situation intimately and clearly and can guide you. Which brings me to the next myth. A financial advisor is necessary to reach your financial goals. False. If you have the time, you have the talent, and you have the interest in doing your own financial management, you do not need an advisor. Remarkable to hear that from an advisor. But my point is that if you have all three, now they're all three critical, talent, time, and the interest, then you can learn, do it yourself. There are plenty of financial resources on the internet. There are plenty of books to read. There are financial courses. You know, you can get an online degree in financial planning if you want. So there are a lot of things you can do for yourself. Now, let me kind of contrast that a little bit and explain why it's so important. Let's say, however, though, that you just don't have the time. You may have the interest and you may have the talent, but you don't have the time. Well, then you're going to be doing it halfway. Let's say that you have the time and the interest, but you ain't got the talent. Well, and you may not be aware of this, so this is something you have to kind of check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? You need to make sure that you don't mess this up. Now, the other thing is, what if you simply don't have the interest? Maybe you're fascinated by it. Maybe you do have the time. You just don't feel comfortable. Well, there are many ways to get advice. And you also don't have to turn your finances over completely to someone. You can get what we call in our industry financial planner assisted advice or planning, or financial advisor assisted planning, where you pay by the hour. Look, if somebody wants to come in and get my advice, I'll be happy to charge them by the hour for my advice. If you say, look, I want to manage the money myself, but I want to know that I'm on the right track, and I like to watch it, I like to do it, I have the time, but I'm just not sure I've got the talent, or I'm not sure I have the right tools. I guess I could add a fourth one, tools. I don't know that I have the right tools to do what you can do as a professional, so review what I'm doing. I'll charge you by the hour to do it. I mean, so there are ways to get where you need to go without hiring an advisor. Now, let me flip that over, and you may say, okay, David, you're talking out both sides of your mouth, but I'm really not. The next myth is that any financial advisor worth their salt can tell you what to do, and that if they can't, then you're better off just learning and doing it yourself. In other words, if they can't give you perfect advice, you should just do it yourself. Well, financial advisors can really help frame up and give you a roadmap on how to get from where you are to where you want to be. Sometimes it's hard to see, you know, the old expression, it's hard to see the forest for the trees. And when it's your trees, sometimes certain trees, you're like, nope, that one's getting a ribbon around it. We're not cutting that one down. So it's helpful to get some perspective. Now, I will tell you that sometimes financial people are not a good investment. Some of them can do more harm than good. But the key thing to remember with advisors is that they can offer value. Now, one thing that sometimes people get tripped up with is they say to themselves, well, look, I'm a smart guy or gal. I can learn this. I can do this. I don't need somebody else to tell me how to manage my money. Or there are a little bit in our American society, there is a great deal of what we call this bootstrap, self-determination, do it for yourself, you know, and also there are legitimate concerns about trusting somebody else with your money. Take all of that and you say, you know, I'll do it myself. But some people feel like that's what they need to do. And you know what? Again, as I talked about earlier, if you can do it, do it. But here's the point I really want to make to kind of put a bow around this. There's nothing wrong with getting help. There's nothing wrong with seeking advice from somebody that knows more about a subject area than you do. And think about the other areas of your life. You know, I don't change my own oil in my car. I used to when I had time and I had an interest in doing it, but today I can't. I don't have the time, and somebody else can do it much quicker and much better. Think of all the other things that might be appropriate, you know, that somebody else can do better. Do you like to eat steak? Are you going to raise your own cow? I mean, think about it. You know, we are a very specialized society. But here's really a key point. It doesn't make you a coward. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't mean you're unintelligent to hire somebody to help you, or to at least get a second opinion from somebody who has expertise and experience. Now, both of those are very important. They need to know what they're doing, and you need to find out if they know what they're doing by looking at their background, asking them about their credentials, and they need to have some experience because they need to know what happens under different scenarios, and a lot of things are not taught in a textbook or credential course that comes from experience. If you follow these basic concepts, I think you can plan well. In fact, you can plan stronger.